I want you to remember a time where you didn't listen to your gut instinct, where you felt viscerally drawn to do one thing, but instead you did the other. And I want you to recognize how uncomfortable that experience actually was. I want you to recognize that there was a lack of internal harmony at that time. There was unnecessary suffering occurring because so much of you was telling you to do one thing, but you were too afraid, you ignored it, you pushed it away, and instead you did another thing, maybe for approval or acceptance, etc. When life gets stressful, it's easier to kind of tune out the intuition. It gets harder to listen to it. Instead, the anxiety, the worry begins to take a more dominant place within our mind, within our awareness, with what our attention is going to. And then we start to just feel exhausted on a regular basis. We feel overwhelmed. And in order to actually start listening to your intuition, you have to also reflect on times where you did not listen to your intuition. You need that contrast so that you can get that clear idea in your mind of what is listening to my intuition versus what is not listening to my intuition. And in this video, we're going to start really drawing that contrast in a clear way. And also I'm going to be helping you to develop that ability to just listen to your intuition, really guiding you towards what do you have to practically do in your life in order to have it be very obvious, and how do you determine what it is versus what it is not. So now I want you to remember a time where maybe you had to make some kind of difficult decision and you felt very pulled to do one thing, and then you actually ended up doing that thing. Now I want you to recognize a lot of the sensations that you actually felt in that experience. How did your body feel? What was kind of going on in your mind? What did your environment feel like? You see how these are two very different experiences from one another? There's an immediate contrast that starts to get drawn in your mind. So as you begin to remember some of these kinds of moments, you will form a relationship to your own intuitive and psychic energy. As you recall these moments, this will get clearer and clearer and clearer in your mind, and your ability to hone in on your intuition will become stronger and stronger and stronger. So you will understand the mind and body sensations involved, and you'll be able to discern more clearly what to kind of listen to and how to actually trust it, how to actually listen to your instincts. So a large part of being able to really determine what is intuition versus what is not is looking into a lot of the habitual subconscious patterns that you're conditioned by that just repeat themselves. Things like judgments and criticism and tensions in the body and avoidance and addictions and just like robotic sort of impulses and knee-jerk reactions. All this stuff is more survival oriented and pulls you away from your intuition repeatedly. So survival mode comes with a backstory. Survival mode comes with a story that's infused with all sorts of past narratives, fears, stress, anxiety, etc. Your intuition does not come with any of that. Your intuition arises from the present moment very spontaneously. Moment by moment, actually. Your intuition empowers what's actually true in this experience. Your intuition can be really tapped into by returning to this question over and over and over again. What is true in this moment? What's the actual true nature of this experience? And not forcing some kind of answer. You're not trying to like get a chokehold on yourself and like force it out, but you're allowing the space to just be open so that what can naturally come through is actually able to come through. You actually allow yourself to just feel, sense, and listen, and then just live inside of your constantly changing and shape-shifting self, allowing yourself to just recognize the internal flux and flow of sensation, how the body actually feels, the signals that the body gives you. Because most of your intuition is actually going to be oriented around your body. It's not a sort of thought. It's not a ordinary sort of concept that just arises in your mind. It's more based on sensory experience rather than just the endless sort of stream of thought. Another very important aspect of this is learning to compassionately stay present with emotional debris inside of you. A lot of our emotions, when we're not able to actually process them, just get stuck in the body, and then we get very tense. We actually habitually hold them down through tension in the body, raised shoulders, a clenched gut. A lot of the stuff doesn't ever go anywhere, and then we actually disconnect from our body. So this whole idea of the intuition becomes very confusing because we're so disconnected from ourselves. And learning to compassionately understand and stay present with a lot of this emotional debris and learn to come into deeper levels of self-acceptance and presence, all this naturally begins to clear up a lot of that sort of underlying rigidity, underlying tension, underlying reactivity, underlying avoidance, underlying criticism and judgment. This helps you to actually become clear in your mind and actually live with more intention. This allows the intuition to rise more clearly rather than always being obscured by reactivity and survival-oriented patterns. So a lot of listening to your intuition has to do with softening up in the moment, consciously relaxing in the moment, and then just slowing down in order to see what is ready to come through in this moment. And we live in a culture that wants to speed everything up. There's always got to be something more to do. We can't rest. We're always on the move, always on the go. Reflection isn't very valued. Just sitting and appreciating the existence of a leaf or a tree isn't valued. If we can't sell it, it's not valued. So again, I have to urge you to learn how to just attune back to the present. Learn how to bring conscious relaxation into the body. And learn to just be with experience. Allow it to move and flow. Connect to its constantly changing nature, the flow of sensation in the body, the signals that the heart gives you, the signals that the gut gives you. You have neurons in your gut and heart. They're not stupid organs, they're intelligent. Your body's highly intelligent and it's communicating with you, but you have to develop the skill of being able to listen to it. And without that, you're not going to recognize how intelligent your body is. Instead, you'll probably just think of it as some stupid animal-like biological machine that does nothing but pump blood, breathe air, eat, digest, and poop. And reproduce. So this is why a daily meditation practice and mindful movement, so that your body gets the movement it actually needs, is very important. You actually, I'm going to argue that you can't really listen to your intuition very well without meditation, without mindful movement, without slowing down and coming into the present experience and practicing that. I guarantee you, if we take two examples of someone who has been doing a lot of meditation for a long period of time and has intentionally cultivated these skills versus someone who hasn't, this person who has is really going to know how to listen to their intuition, while the person who hasn't is not going to have a clue, not a clue whatsoever. And this other person, right, is unfortunately the state of most people. Not trying to be rude, I'm just trying to point out an observation. This requires intentional practice. It's a skill to be able to attune to yourself, Be sensitive to yourself, not sensitive as in you're a weakling, but sensitive as in aware and just simply present with in a way that notices subtle details that can easily be missed out on. So again, a daily meditation practice and mindful movement are extremely supportive for actually developing your intuitive gifts. Another really important point is to create space in your daily life for your intuition to awaken. We live in a culture, like I said, is always trying to speed everything up. Everything's got to be faster. We got to sell things. We got to be more productive. Right? All this is great. There's an actual time and place for all of that. But when the other side of the spectrum is not valued, like meditation or just appreciating raw experience and existence, appreciating the existence of a tree, nature, rest. When this isn't valued, things are thrown out of balance. And when things are thrown out of balance, sickness arises, dysfunction arises, illness arises, disease arises. And then how can you really be clear when you're operating just from illness and sickness? You can't. So create space in your daily life for your intuition to really awaken. Your culture is not going to support this. Odds are most people around you are not going to help you or support this. That's why I need you, or I'm going to ask you, at least if you're interested in this kind of stuff, to create that structure in your everyday life. What does that look like? That means going out in nature. Just sit next to a tree. Right? And really bask in the experience of a tree. Let go of your thoughts about what a tree is and just experience it for what it is. Just let go of the thoughts of it, just being present with it, attuning to it, and that's it. You can't know what a tree even is without just being present to what it is. The second you label it a tree, every atom has already vibrated and shifted. It's not a noun, it's more of a verb. It's more of a process. Right? Reality is a flow, constantly changing. The English language is full of a bunch of nouns that make reality start to appear to us as though it's static, fixed, and rigid, when in actuality it's fluid, flowing, and changing, and impermanent. So you can't really know the nature of a thing without just being present with it. So spend time just being present with reality. What even is this? What is a tree beyond my mind's ability to conceive of what this experience is? What is the actual experience that I'm having right now? What is the true nature of this experience, like I mentioned earlier? Mindful cooking, when you're cooking and making food for yourself, just taking time to sense into the food that you're eating. Feel into just the experience that you're having. Notice the forms that exist, the shapes, the sounds, the smells. Getting into the senses more, rather than always being so numb to experience, really just feeling what is present. Mindfully eating your food, painting, meditation, like I said, dancing, singing, writing, reading, creative work. Creativity is like a doorway to the intuition. Creativity is a powerful force for allowing your intuition to really come through and get in touch with it very often, because creativity, where does it come from? It just spontaneously arises from being, from the moment, from right now, from the very essence of creation, right here, right now. It just arises spontaneously. Can't force it to come through. It just manifests and then passes. It arises and passes, just like everything else, just like every thought, feeling, sensation, person. Everything is always in the state of arising and passing. So when you connect to this flow of existence and this arising and passing, you connect to intuition more, because you're in harmony with being, with existence. And in order to actually tap into your intuition, you have to be in harmony with everything around you. You have to be in balance with yourself, with what's around you. And when you're out of balance, like I said, sickness arises, disease, dysfunction. You can't tune into life. So creativity is just a really good way to begin to get in tune with your intuition. That's just another very important aspect of this. When you maintain a steady connection and are able to integrate body, mind, sensations, gut, and heart, naturally you're going to experience fewer survival and just reactive-based patterns. And this opens up the intuition, because you can't really listen to the intuition if you're always concerned about How do I get food? How am I going to just make more money? And this is all very good, right? This is all great. There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing bad about survival. It's just that if you're only ever in survival mode, you can't focus on accessing the intuition. And once you actually get good at accessing your intuition, it helps you with your practical day-to-day life. It helps you with relationships. It helps you with your career. It helps you with what foods to eat. Right? But again, you have to kind of cultivate that skill. So when you're able to integrate, like I said, body, mind, heart, sensations, gut, naturally you just start to move out of survival mode. All this stuff starts to work together rather than always against each other, fighting essentially, survival mode and reactivity. And the intuition can open up more. All the parts of your system are working together so that things can flow smoothly. So naturally, your body becomes this vessel for truth and insight. Your gut instincts will be able to speak to you more clearly when your actual gut health, your physical gut health, is in order, is in balance. Your mental clarity increases when you get the rest that you need and when you're meditating every day, when you have that structured time to meditate. Not to mention that your mind will work better when you eliminate distractions, like you're always just kind of being on your smartphone or always being on YouTube, right? Maybe it's time to turn off my videos and just start implementing this stuff practically in your life, right? Removing overeating habits, right? Just noticing habits that suck away your energy, drain you, and then just learning to cut that stuff out of your life and then replace it, form new patterns based off of things that give you more energy, give you life, make you feel alive and connected. So compassion increases very naturally when your mind and body simply feel good. And then it's a lot easier to listen to the intuition. There's a positive energy you create when you naturally start to choose curiosity and being open-minded, being open to experience versus being closed and judgmental and critical and then just kind of lost in thought and stuck and rigid. These are two very different states that actually create different perceptions of life. So when you can move out of the survival-oriented defensiveness, overly critical thoughts, victim mentality, etc., you can tap into your intuitive process and actually receive support even in life's challenging times. Even in times where right now you're maybe not able to listen to your intuition, as you develop the skill, it'll be able to come through even in those moments. It'll be more steady and ongoing rather than maybe something that's just there when you hit like some kind of peak experience in your life. When you're feeling sort of extra calm one night, drinking tea, or when you're feeling extra alive one day because maybe you got a raise at work. So an intuitive mind is also an open mind. I don't want you to get stuck on the idea that intuition is just this sort of logical, purely mental thing, because like I said, it's also about getting, the majority of it is about getting into your body, getting into your senses. But your mind is going to play a big role as well. An intuitive mind is an open mind. If you explore new ideas, new perspectives. You aren't dogmatic. You aren't ideological. You're willing to explore all perspectives. You're willing to be honest about what's true in these perspectives and really test them out, to do a good amount of research. If you're willing to actually question your beliefs and assumptions, if you just start to abandon your beliefs entirely, learning to just let go of them rather than clinging on to them essentially out of fear and for security, and instead you just open up to unconventional possibilities and you just surrender to the unknown, you actually create a foundation for your intuition to really start to come through. So by letting go of rigidity and just embracing the unknown, you actually start to receive deep intuitive wisdom. Rather than always needing to cling to things out of fear of the unknown, right? If you're always doing that, you can't create space for intuitive wisdom to come through because you're too closed, you're too fixed, you're too rigid. Nothing can come through. Your body and your mind are your body will literally be too tense. So lastly, intuition isn't just confined to some kind of brain or mind. It permeates the entire body. And by learning to attune to your body's physical sensations and messages, You tap into real intuitive guidance. I remember when I did my first meditation retreat, and it really like clicked in my mind that a lot of this sort of spiritual work, psychological work, emotional work, this was quite a few years ago, a lot of this isn't very mental. It's not as mental as I thought it was. In fact, it's more about just being in the body, attuning to the actual wisdom of nature, the wisdom of the body, the wisdom of the sensations, the wisdom of my senses, and then connecting that to my mind, connecting that to every facet of my life so that I'm more integrated rather than internally fragmented. I'm more connected to the body and I can listen to it. This is the work of a sage. Lao Tzu, Buddha, Jesus. This is the work of actual sages, actual very wise people. If you're doing this kind of work very honestly, very sincerely, this is the path of quite literally transforming yourself into a sage. Authentically calm, not forcefully calm where you're kind of putting on some sort of like bullshit exterior, but like authentically calm because you're not in survival mode, because you don't always feel threatened by every little thing. You're just naturally grounded. The nervous system is regulated. Integrated rather than internally fragmented. Connected rather than numb, dull, and disconnected. Present rather than scattered and avoiding and craving. And deeply wise. Deeply wise because you've constructed a being, yourself, that is deeply wise intentionally. Because this is an actual vision that you had for yourself. It didn't just happen by accident, but it was visionary. That's it for this video. If you're interested in working one-to-one with me, you can apply to do so. Link is in the pinned comment. Take it easy.